All right. Let's go get honest.
That's what we want.
Yeah. Let's go for it. Art isn't, to me personally, content or a commodity. It's still a personal expression of somebody's soul and identity and how they want that to be expressed on a blank sheet canvas. What allows at least my business to grow to the way that it does is the compatibility between functionality of engineering and the aesthetics of art. For me, I always think in terms of video games, like going through your story and making sure you're delivering something at the end point. Start with your own creation. At the end of the day, you have to like it yourself.
MJ on the Wall, where did that name come from?
Oh man, I really appreciate it. It's more of a matter of a completionist or objective statement. When I initially made my social media platform for MJ on the Wall, I wanted to make a wall full of art, as you see right behind me. And the act of that was starting with one single painting and then working my way up into a nice little artist wall. Yeah, and also playing off the weight. I mean, Michael Jackson made a good album. Off the Wall, I'm trying to do something better with MJ on the Wall, stuff like that. So
I like it. I like it. So when did you first pick up a paintbrush?
2021.
Okay, so when you say 5 years ago, you really meant like you started 5 years ago, not like when I was 6, I always drew and then I came back to it.
I wish I could put a cheat code in there like that. No. And I'm very aware of the fact that like, oh yeah, I'm just this relatively young talent when it comes to it. But in all honesty, like I just really got obsessive when it got to 2021. I put a lot of hours, and there was a lot of bad work in between that. Y'all just see, the finished ones. Yeah, but I started at least art in general was May 2020 though, but that was just with my iPad.
So another COVID creation. I'm noticing a trend.
Definitely.
A lot of the business owners and entrepreneurs I'm talking to, COVID was a really kind of like the tipping point for them when they decided to kind of like make the leap. And it sounds like it was the same for you.
Yeah, when you left in isolation, you really try to take the time to find yourself. And I mean, people found some things from it, and art was mine.
I love it. I read somewhere that your grandmother is also part of the inspiration for why you do what you do. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Almost definitely. My grandma on my dad's side, Grandma Johnson, Phyllis Johnson, she was a lot of great things. She was an educator and she was a principal, but most known for me in her later years, she was a painter. And I saw her painting a lot when I was like 5 or 6 years old, and it was the first time exposed to oil paint, right? And then I ventured down my own path of becoming an engineer, but COVID happened and a lot of isolation was there. And I wanted to, find something of myself and get to a point where I could be somewhere I could be personally proud of. My grandma didn't get a chance to receive my graduation. COVID happened and then she passed away shortly before I graduated. And it kind of harkened back to me. I just wanted to have a moment where I could, if not my grandma was present for me, I could at least show her something that she could be proud of. And I just thought, when she put down the paintbrush, it was a good opportunity for me to pick it up and go for it as much as I can. First as an act of remembrance, but then it just really fulfilled into my own personal passion where I became very grateful for.
I love that.
Yeah.
When for you did this really shift from being more of an escape or a way for you to find more fulfillment in your personal life to it being less about a hobby and more like, okay, this is actually something that I want to grow, and then getting into more of like the business side of being an artist, right? Because it's like, me and the team have conversations all the time. As a creative, that's the fun part. That's the easiest part, is like thinking about something that you want to put out into the world and then doing it. Yeah. But as a painter, you just want to paint. You're like, I don't necessarily want to be a business person. I don't necessarily want to have to think about the financial piece of this, but that's the reality of when you love something enough and then you want to turn it into a career. You gotta grow it. So like, when did that shift happen for you where you were like, ooh, I really want to take this and grow it and make it more than paintings that I keep or maybe gift to people, but also like give it to people in the world?
I just realized my scale of ideas just kind of grew over time. If my first year was dedicated to making a wall full of art in my bedroom, and that was dope. And the next year I wanted to make another wall full of art, but I realized it was going to be too big to fit my bedroom, so I had to get a venue, and venue costs money. And I was on the path of just like, all right, I need to start learning how to make money from this side hobby to hopefully make this hobby grow into something of a stage, you know. And once I got to do my first, where I threw my own pop-up solo show, that just kind of clicked to me. It was just like, all right, if I can just make enough to afford the newer, bigger ideas I want to do, then that was my pure goal. I mean, there is the financial luxury of just having a nice little second stream of income.
Yeah.
But for me, it was purely just like, I've done some ambitious things already, but I'm trying to do some more ambitious things later down the line, and I know it requires a certain amount of capital. So that shift happened for me when it came to just the idea standpoint.
Yeah, when you needed more money in order to do the things you wanted to do versus money being like the sole motivator.
Yeah. And I think that has to stay within me pretty well, because art isn't, to me personally, content or a commodity. It's still a personal expression of somebody's soul and identity and how they want that to be expressed on a blank sheet canvas. But to put a complete sole purpose of the economics or a complete sole purpose in the popularity of the art piece can kind of dilute the pure intentions that it could originally have. And so for me, I have to keep it rooted in the sense of like, all right, I'm using this money and popularity to go to the next biggest idea for me. Because I've done so much from just the ambition of just a single little thought in a room to grow to this point, you know, and I want to keep that pure to grow it to the next greatest point that can possibly be.
Yeah, I mean, so you talked about your own solo show. You've also done a mural.
Yeah.
And you also have done like some touring. So you have like MJ on tour.
Yeah.
And what's this thing about you going to Spain also, by the way? Talk to me about how you even crossed the ocean to get over to Europe.
Don't worry about that. I just got my ways. I just, branding is definitely the biggest part of the goal. And I just thought, hey, if I'm doing a couple of shows within like a 50-mile radius, I might as well let people know initially. I just try to treat it as like a newsletter. Like, hey, this is going to, you know, I'm going to be here, here, and here. But I thought that on the tour, this felt like a great little collaboration. Yeah, you know, I got to love my words. So seeing that come together, I was like, the stickiness is what matters. You know, it was like a lot of people just stick to their minds. The Spain was honestly very much a stroke of luck. I was out in Spain the year prior, doing a paint and sip, and the people could tell, like, oh, you got a little bit of talent with this paintbrush, and I was like, yeah, I'd be doing my thing, and they said, like, look, we'd love to have you next time, and luckily there was a next time because I ended up going to Spain next year for a nice little French trip, and then they had me. It was 30 people, and they didn't know English. I didn't know Spanish. So,
but you let the art talk. So
yeah, we let the art talk. We had a vibe. We had a time.
I love it. I love it. You talked about stickiness.
Yeah.
So talk to me about different ways that you're learning to promote your art or share your art. What are like some of your strategies in terms of how you're getting it out into the world? Because the reality is if nobody sees it, nobody buys it. And that really does rest solely on your shoulders, especially when you don't have like a show going on or you're not doing a sip and paint where there's an opportunity for people to come to you.
Yeah.
So how are you making sure that your brand is sticky?
Yeah, I'm really feeling I'm running it, especially last year was a pivot point because the thing I've had to tackle a lot as an artist is that I'm very creatively unstable. Yeah,
I appreciate that transparency.
yeah. These are
I've
my
got some of that
confessions.
too.
Yeah. I can't accept that I'm going to be doing the same painting consistently over time, or the same art style. So I needed something outside myself where people can, if they don't recognize my paint strokes or my art style by face value, then they could possibly recognize maybe the font I use or the presentation I do it. So I pretty much got the idea to make my art wall a consistent set piece in a lot of my content, just to give a sense of immediate trust in those first microseconds of a scroll, where they can see this piece of content and say like, oh, okay, I know what he's about to
Yeah.
get into or show off. Same font is a big thing for me. MJ on the wall, I try to make that as a t-shirts and also as like my pants as well. But that allows me to kind of have this logo, where if my art can't be my signature, at least this logo can possibly carry my brand to a universal language where they can just detect it from any facet of creativity I'm doing.
I like the thought process behind that because my initial thinking was a lot of artists, I don't think, put too much into the name because they're just signing the bottom of their painting, and it's kind of like they want the work to be recognizable, right? You got like Basquiat, and you got the Kehinde Wileys, and so you kind of know them when you see their work, and I love that for you. You're kind of the opposite. You're like, I want room to be able to expand and do different things with my art and with my work. And so even if you're not necessarily always on first instinct or sight aware that this is my piece, when you see the name, that's all that will really matter. I think that switch is quite clever. I love that you kind of like took that approach with it.
Yeah.
You talked about your content having a similar font, a similar look and feel, but you're also using like music and pacing really well too.
Thank you.
When you're promoting your content, there's like even the song choices that you have and the way that certain things pop on the screen or the way that like a painting shows up or your cutaways, they all also feel really strategic. Now, you're a mechanical engineer, so how are you flipping between the creative side of your brain and then also the other side of your brain that has to deal a lot with what I imagine is like numbers and structural integrity and all these different things.
Okay.
So talk to me about kind of like how you're pulling the inspiration from, I guess, out in the world or where that comes from internally, being that like in your day job. You don't get to flex that all the time.
No. And I think what allows at least my business to grow to the way that it does is the compatibility between the functionality of engineering and the aesthetics of art. You know, art is very aesthetics leaning, presentation, context is very important. But beneath that is the underwork, and underneath the hood is your mechanics on how you cut, you paste, you present. I'm very adamant when referring to like my content in seasons, where if I want to promote for a solo show or if I want to get to the next milestone, I will be posting consistently for 2 or 3 times a week for the 8 weeks leading up to it. After that, I might just cool it. I might just take a month off, drink a couple Mai Tais, be on the beach, call it. But in the midst of it, it's for me, engineering was taught poem. So it's actively pursuing your milestones, your plan of action milestones, where I'm looking at my quarter 1, 2026 and stuff like that. And how do I take those micro steps in between to get to the ultimate rollout,
We call that in the marketing world campaigns.
Yeah.
So essentially like your 8-week sprints are marketing campaigns where you're kind of like mapping out content, what's your objective, how are you going to measure that and get to that. And I do see how engineering like dovetails really well into that type of planning.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's going to help a lot of creators, quite frankly, because trying to figure out how do I post consistently without burning out, without also like getting bored of how we talked about off camera, like the internal demand you then get when you see that traction. It's like, well, I got to keep feeding the beast. I got to keep feeding the algorithm, or, my engagement may drop off or my numbers are going to get low. And I love that you kind of talked about kind of having this peace within yourself where it's like you've got to put stuff out into the world that feels right for you, that feels organic and natural.
Yeah.
And anytime you feel like you're starting to press outside of that or against that natural leaning in yourself, you kind of need to take a step back. And it's okay to have, I think, space in between when you're posting. Like I was sharing with you, I think it's really important for us to not take people's attention for granted. And I certainly do not want to be locked in and online all the time. And I think if I'm prioritizing that for myself and that's part of my wellness, then I need to respect that too with, you know, my clients and, you know, my followers, my community. And so I like for you that you're like, once I do my sprint, my campaign is done, I take some time off. Because I think people pay more attention to your work too when they're not expected to be dialed into you all the time. You kind of pop out like Beyonce. You pick your moments. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know when she's getting ready to drop something because she starts to kind of flip. She starts to turn that machine on for her campaigning. And then when she's gone, she lets you rest. And I like that you give people time to rest.
Yeah, me in the same senses as Beyonce is crazy work. I appreciate that. Thank you. yeah, and I'll hopefully I can hear it more often. But I thank you. I am very thoughtful to campaign is a great way to express it. For me, I always think in terms of video games, like going through your story and making sure you're delivering something at the end point. Because frankly, when I think about like a lot of content creators, especially those ones starting off, is that you have a viral piece of content and it's great, but then a sense of dread and anxiety pours onto you because you're thinking about how to stoke that flame and continue it. And I very much adamant on the idea of a plan where, yes, those 10,000 views here or 100,000 views there is great, but as long as if you're not funneling it anywhere, if you're not funneling it to your website or towards the events that you're promoting, then it can be a little bit of like a wasted energy, you know, and you have to be very conscious. And it kind of allows you to regulate yourself when it comes to keeping your calm on when you're posting content, because you know you trust the plan, as opposed to waiting for the like one thing to pop off.
Lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
So what's your process then for like how you map out that 8-week period? Like, are you kind of pulling the same levers every time and using the same strategy, or are you trying different things? Like, for example, I know you have a newsletter, and then obviously you have a website, which is where ultimately you're funneling people to because you want them to buy your art or go to an event like a paint and sip, or if your work is up at a gallery. But like, what are some of the platforms or the different things that you're leveraging in that 8-week period that you found kind of like work for you?
So my endpoint has typically always been an in-person event. When I'm doing an 8-week period sprint, is the first week is promotion or introduction of that event itself, and then throughout, in between, will be checkpoints of just saying, "Hey, more attention to this event. These are more things that will be happening at this event." And then we get to the event at the end point, and then I can do a recap, show everybody everything that happened. But when it comes to other aspects of promotion in this campaign, I am learning more about the in-person advertisement. So the ability to go out to another social space and interact with them, collab with them, hopefully to bring crowd over to my side, and hopefully help bring a crowd to them, vice versa, is something I'm working towards more now, similar to how you see actors do promo runs. When they're
going to the people.
Yeah, they're going to have the Guaranteed Hot Wings segment. They're going to have...
yeah,
they're going to do something with Vanity Fair, couple guessing games and stuff like that. I think that's more important as a young content creator is to get the collaborations out there, you know, take the social media back to social, you know, is a very good direction.
Yeah, that's interesting. That dovetails really well into another episode that we taped with Alex from Devour DC, and he said the exact same thing when I asked him kind of like, what do you think is kind of like what we're trending towards in terms of like what's gonna help with success and engagement with branding. He's like, I think we gotta go offline. And I think we get back to like the early 2000s where we go into more of the intrapersonal, and you're saying the same thing. And so there's this through line there. I'm also interested in how you're leveraging though, things like your newsletter, your website. It's hard to get people to go from one platform to another. So on social media, for example, asking someone to, even for like, this show on Instagram, I'm showing clips. I'm like, these are incredible entrepreneurs and small business owners. Please jump over to YouTube, watch the full segment, and trying to get them to make that switch, right? Because like psychologically, when we're locked into one platform, we want to just operate there. To then get somebody to then jump over to your website or to sign up for your newsletter is a little bit harder. So how are you nurturing people on your own platforms, the ones that you have control over?
Yeah, that's obviously a great question. I wish I had a complete answer for it, but
just do whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, most definitely. What fills my spirit? Well, I say where I work from pretty well. When I do in-person events, when I'm selling my art at a fair, Black Art Show, or etc., I will ask the customer, like, hey, is it okay if I can get your email to let you know about the future work I'm having, right? And most times out of 10, they say yes, and then I add them over to the list. And that kind of gives, especially people that meet you in person, have a lot more of a connection to you, where it allows you to feel like they're going to click that button when they're trusting it.
Yeah.
When it comes to clicks in general, I only kind of think of, and I do reverse engineering for it. A lot of times, if I'm the audience, when I'm looking at a clip, what makes me click over? And I think it's the mystery or continuation of like, oh, what could possibly set next? Cutting off the resolution, cutting off the
leaving some tension.
Yeah. If you cut it off at a right point, I feel like people want to search outside the platform, but. Still something I would actively still try to learn.
That's a really good point, though, is like figuring out within the storytelling where it's a good break in the story to give them enough, and then also be like, okay, to get the rest, you gotta go and watch the long form content, or you gotta do this other thing.
Yeah,
I think you do that really, really well. Like I said, again, in your music and your pacing, but also in the way that you show like work that isn't complete yet. So what I really liked about your newsletter was you have a section that's like unfinished. And so like these are all the pieces that you've started and like you're in the middle of, but I love the fact that you're already promoting them. Typically I see artists just give the finished pieces. The fact that you're willing to also show the process in the middle, I feel like you're building like this anticipation and this trust with your audience. And I immediately looked at a couple pieces and was like, oh, I like that one. So now, as soon as you're ready to like sell it, I'm already primed and thinking about and preparing for like the opportunity to be able to then purchase that piece. Is that where you are kind of like thinking about and approaching that particular strategy of like kind of showing the process of you making pieces instead of just putting up finished pieces of art?
Most definitely. When I think about, especially for the audience, it is, you almost have to see a commercial 7 times in order to really remember the commercial.
Yeah.
Right? And I think the same thing aspect works when it comes to art and paintings. Is people can be visibly struck by it, and especially in person. But if we're talking about the screen, where it is the expectation of you looking at this black piece of glass to be entertained day in, day out, then a lot of like even exciting pieces fall mute, and it's really about the ability for something to be easily recognized or repeated, which kind of triggers that more of a connection to it. Yeah, so when I come for my unfinished pieces, I'm just trying to show that piece as much as I can, as originally in as many original ways as I possibly can for the longest periods of time. So it is that work in progress. It is showing it with the short reveal, then talking about it in the episode of Artist Yaps, and then again when I do like a compilation video where I show off maybe 5 or 6 pieces, and then another one with a post. And that's already listing right there about 6 times that you're showing this one piece of work. And I think that is very important for allowing people to really trust it, get a connection to it, and then almost look at it like a logo, like, oh, I recognize this Toyota logo, I recognize the Oreos logo. Like it's something satisfying in the brain where it's like you almost get this triggered sense of nostalgia when you see something over a long period of time that you start to trust. Yeah.
Talk to me about imposter syndrome a little bit. And I'm asking because part of what I know I even personally run into is you can have a plan,
Yeah.
and you can do a campaign, you can have a strategy, and you can
Yeah.
have a great product. But sometimes it's like dating.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you just got to find the right match in the world. And
Yeah.
it's so many people that like the opportunity feels endless.
Yeah.
But the reality is that you do kind of have to like, the piece has to speak to the person that it's for. And sometimes that piece is speaking to multiple people.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it takes a little while for the right person to find it. How are you navigating those moments and still making the active choice to show up anyway and to still work your plan, even when like inside you may be doubting yourself a little bit or feeling like, man, this moment is really tough because, you know, just preach to me for a second, right? Forget the people.
Yeah.
Tell me, what do you do?
All right. Let's go get honest.
That's what we want.
Yeah. Let's go for it. I'm already pretty used to the failure that is art when it comes to the idea that your piece is not immediately selling off the shelves or like everybody's not clamoring for it. Like those 3 years as being on Instagram was very much around like at max like 500 people that was following me.
For 3 years?
Yeah, for 3 years. Yeah, and I loved every increment of it because I was just like I was hyped to get past 300 followers just from the idea of just like, oh, there's enough people here to make a little bit of a crowd, you know? And when I got more followers on my art account than I had my regular personal account, then I felt like really cool.
Yeah.
But I in the midst of that, there was many times where I was posting something and it wouldn't get any attention or it wouldn't get any appreciation, and I just say like, cool, that's what my personal creation was. I wanted to submit something into the world that I personally liked, and that's what matters most to me is just my personal feeling towards it, because it's at the end of the day that art piece has to sit with you the longest, you know. And if you don't like your own art, then it's and you're doing it purely because you thought the audience would like it, it's just a double like whammy right there. So I'm in a mix now where it's just I accept the fact that, especially as the economy is and how prices go from up and down, sometimes it's like I don't come with the immediate expectation like this is going to sell off the shelves.
Yeah.
I come with the expectation that this is going to be shown, and then the next opportunity is to go show it in front of people at a fine art fair or in front of like an artscape or something like that, and then we're just going to let it ride out. You know, there's so many things, at least in my work, that people will appreciate it years after the line. You know, and at the very least, you know, it's going to make a nice little piece of decoration, at least in my house, for the time being.
Yep.
So yeah.
Put it somewhere on the wall.
Yeah,
You're running out of
yeah.
space here, but but you are right. It does sit with you the longest. I love that you said that perfectly.
Yeah.
My other thought too is like when you are creating these pieces, it's also like you're giving a piece of yourself away to everybody that buys it, right? Like this it gets personal. I'm sure there are pieces that you're like, I kind of don't want to sell this.
Oh yeah.
I want to hold on to this.
There's a couple of ones that I won't sell here, even on this wall. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just I know my personal creation. I think it's very important for me to keep some things to myself. You know.
I like that. Not being so interested, I guess, in being your brand being consumed or overly liked that like you're giving up parts of yourself that because I think that's the other thing too, right? As creators and business owners, it's like how much of me do I share and how much of that do I keep? And art is deeply personal. How do you like toe that line? Yeah,
I always translate my personal expression through different lens. You know, if I'm talking about the artist journey or just the journey of somebody progressing in their own endeavor, I would like to translate it the way that J.K. Rowling would translate her play into like sorcery. You know, is to give that method of translation, also give me a method of separation where I don't necessarily feel like you know my life when I give you a piece of painting. But you should know at least my mantra, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I feel a lot more comfortable just delivering my mantra to people as opposed to very much my soul, you know? Yeah.
That was deep. J.K. Rowling's. Okay.
Yeah.
You definitely pull inspiration from a lot of different mediums. You've mentioned books, you've mentioned paintings, you've mentioned music, you've mentioned movies. Is there a creator or a medium that you feel like feels the way that you show up in the world, like your brand inspiration most? Or do you feel like that really is just like an amalgamation of all the things and just like intrinsically how you feel? Like, did you see something and it was like, ooh, I want to mirror that? And I'm asking because I want to know how you feel when other people are doing that with you. I've seen a couple of examples of other creators that literally have your your aesthetic and your style, and I'm like, how do you feel about that? Is it like, imitation is flattery, or are you like, you're literally biting off of me and now my authenticity is compromised because somebody else is looking at both of our pages, and who's the OG?
Yeah, I mean, if I was really into the content game, I would call all of them hacks, and I'll make diss tracks, and we can just start this whole campaign going right there. But no, that's not the drama. Like, I'm very much honored that people copied a style, or at least a presentation. I took notes from a couple artists, at least when I saw somebody else like presenting their work in their bedroom and showing off all the paintings they had in the background, while also showing the painting they have there. That's just very important to me. You have to have I want this game of art presentation to be iterative, like people building off the top of each other. And in the engineering world, we consider this like a hackathon, right? Where people are all coming together and open source and come up with ideas and collaborating to make the best possible product. Because that's what at least we're trying to do as artists, is deliver the best possible product. And the whole seascape that is the internet, with so many competitions from, musicians to comedians to, people doing talk pieces. Like, we're just trying to have our own little life raft where we can show our little pieces of canvas and what we attach ourselves to. So,
I love it. What's next for MJ on the Wall? Are you gonna break out and start doing different things? Do you want the brand to grow and into being beyond art? Are you going to Spain again? Like, give us the tea here.
So first thing on the list is really speaking of the friend from Devour, is going back to social. Is this year is dedicated to developing my connections in the DC art world and community, creative community, as much as I possibly can. Entrench myself there for when my plan in 2027 is to have a nice, bigger solo show where community people can really come together and actively engage. I want this, because I've been developing it there. I really think that the art space could be the next way that DC views a brunch. I think that if you have to look at the package of a art venue, right, or a package of a solo exhibition opening, it is a group of people that get to come together between all ages, right? And there's usually like snacks or refreshments, and it's actually pretty good talking volume when you want to be in a social space. And I think that is something that can engage a lot wider of the audience and the outgoing DC community, and I think it's very important for, people to kind of treat that as the next like meeting ground. Now, I mean, I'm not saying that purely as a like, oh, people should just come invade the space and not talk about art. No, that's not what I'm getting at. I appreciate the art at the same time. But like, I think people can start to appreciate this as the next run club or something that's this art club or community where people can really feel like they can be social and talk and engage in the ever, isolated world that we could have,
I like that. When you figure that out, make sure I get an invite. Okay. That sounds fantastic.
Fantastic.
Last question for you. Yeah. What is something that you can share with another fellow artist that you wish you knew when you first started? What's some words of wisdom you would impart on them that you feel like would really have resonated with you 5 years ago?
Gotcha. Yeah, if I can say, well, speak personally to the camera. Start with your own creation. Like, this is very much a beautiful sense of expression of yourself that you want to use to honestly show it to your maximum potential and just remember that journey as much as you possibly can, because I know that the losses can be distracting, but the success can be very distracting as well, you know? And if you just take yourself, at least in the mindset of go in, day out, of making the best piece of artwork for yourself, then I think anything else there is golden. On top of that, that's the artist side of me, expressing that. Engineering side, okay. Make your website, all right. Make your newsletter. Go about of making your plan. Outline what you're trying to do in the next quarter.
Yep.
Make sure you are sticking to that, and honestly waiting to drop content until you know what your full plan is and follow to that regimen. I stockpile. I put up a lot of videos, make maybe 8 or 9 at a time, and then I release it slowly over time, you know, as opposed to make the first video, then make the next video. It's a lot easier planning that way.
Yeah.
Invest in collapsible carts because you're going to be moving your artwork a lot. So definitely get into some good mobile gear. And last and not least, still have some fun with it.
Have some fun with it.
Be entertained as you possibly can with getting that work out there, because you just, at the end of the day, you have to like it yourself, you know. You have to be your first number one fan of it. And if you're not, then it's going to be a very, very heartbreaking time to commit to that journey, you know. And I think it can be very demotivated if you don't. So just remember to love your own content. Be the very first, most ardent fan of your own work. Yeah.
Killed it.
Let's go for it.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
That was excellent.